I'm about to teach you a rarely used method that I use to grow my audience by 5 million people in under 24 months. And the crazy thing is 24 months ago, I had less than 10,000 followers and I knew nothing about YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, or any of these other platforms. And the reason that I was able to catapult to a top 1% creator in that 24-month period is using this method that for some reason no one really talks about. Whenever I enter a new space, whether it's trying to learn a new skill, a new platform, a new anything, I realize there's a massive amount of skill deficiency that I have to overcome as fast as humanly possible. And so I can either deploy time or I can deploy money to save myself time. So within the world of organic content, I was like, who can I pay to shortcut my path to getting to where they are? So on one hand, I could go to like celebrities, and I did go to some of them, and they would give me their strategies, but it was like very personalized and tailored to them, and I didn't think it would apply to like how I run acquisition.com in my daily life. On the other hand, there was like the coaches, gurus, etc. that I could go to, and I didn't want to do that because they might be using something that worked like 5 years ago, which honestly, I see all the time. They're like, guys, you've got to do hashtags on YouTube videos. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like that's not true. And the third option, which I ultimately went with, are advertising agencies. And what an agency is just a business that sells services of advertising on your behalf. I can pay someone to run ads for me. I can pay someone to cut, edit, and distribute content on my behalf. So what I want to do is help you decide whether or not you should use an agency and avoid what I call the agency trap. There's different tiers of agencies. There's the guys who just make stuff, and then there's the people who are real pros. Contextually here, for one brand on one platform, a small one might cost $3-ish, maybe $5,000 a month. The more advanced ones are usually in the $15,000 to $30,000 a month. So it's significantly more money. So here's how I use agencies now and how you can too. Phase one is I get what I would consider a basic agency. So long from getting into YouTube, the first step I did was I hired a $3,000 to $5,000 a month agency, and they just got me to commit to doing 3 videos a week. So they just trimmed it, which means you take out the oohs and ahs, put an intro and a thumbnail. The main objective of that first phase was just to get the basics down, forcing me to create content on a regular cadence. Once I have more context, because I've spent 3-6 months working with them, seeing what the audience likes, then I'm like, okay, now I want to learn everything. So I go from beginner of learning the basics and doing the fundamentals to how do the top creators create on this platform? No business owner should change their business for one client. And so it makes sense for both me and the small agency, or for you and a small agency, to part ways at some point when your demands for what you want exceed their capacity. So then I work with the much better, more advanced agency who works with the top creators to learn all of the more nuanced pieces of the platform. So rather than agree to their initial terms, which is basically pay us as long as humanly possible and we hope you pay until you die, this is exactly what I say. Gather round. I want to do what you do in my business, but I don't know how. I'd like to work with you for 6 months so I can learn how you do it. Plus, I'll pay extra for you to break down why you make the decisions you do and the steps you take to make them. Then, after I get a good idea of how it all works, I'll start training my team on it. And once they can do it well enough, I'd like to change to a lower cost consulting agreement. This way, you can still help us if we run into problems. Are you opposed to this? When you start that way, I like it because you're starting with very clear intentions. And you're saying, hey, I'm gonna commit to 6 months. This is what I want from you. And I'm also saying I'm gonna continue to pay you after the engagement's over for a much higher leverage, much more profitable consulting engagement. So that's what a lot of agencies would ultimately want. And if I need to pay a little bit more than the agency fee upfront, then I'm willing to do that. I also understand that as I start to train my team on it internally, there will be a period of time where I'm paying both them and my team. So you're paying twice. The thing is that when you do that, you're actually building the enterprise value of your business and you're building the asset that you own rather than being reliant on somebody else who eventually could, if you wanted to, cut you off and then you'd be dead in the water. Or what more realistically happens is they gouge you and they continue to raise their price because they can see how much money you're making from the thing. With that new agency, we ran the same play. Hey, we want to learn from you. We want to understand why you're picking these things. We want to understand the decision-making process, etc. I start documenting what they're doing into our processes internally. We want to start co-creating.